Hey guys, today I'm going to be taking you on a short tour of my game hunting shopping spree that I had while I was in Washington for the PAX Prime 2012 video game convention. And for those of you that have been following my channel for approximately a year, you might remember or recall the videos that I released last year for my game hunting spree that I had while in the Seattle area with MetalJesusRocks. And it just so happens that this year when I went, I stayed an extra day to hang out with Jason, MetalJesusRocks, and Jason Heine, and Drunken Master Paul. And on Monday, we went around to 6 different game stores, and I had a lot of fun looking around, shopping for retro, modern games, but for the most part, retro games. So what do you say we get started? And the first store that we stopped at was known as Pink Gorilla in the International District. And I kind of liked the location of this game store. It was sort of hidden away. It's like you really had to know it was there inside this little shopping mall on the inside. But the only thing about Pink Gorilla was, and Jason warned me about this, they might be a little bit low on their stock because Pink Gorilla was present as a booth at PAX this year. So they were a little bit short on some games, but that didn't mean I didn't come away with anything. But taking a look around the store here, they definitely do specialize in import games. So they have import Sega Saturn, PC Engine, Super Famicom, all kinds of stuff in here. And I ended up picking up 2 games while I was there. I got Violent Soldier, which is a side-scrolling shooter for the PC Engine. I told myself that I would be on the lookout for shooters, and this is one that I've been wanting to add to my collection. Definitely happy about that. And this one it looks so lonely to me. They only had one lone Mega Drive import game, and believe it or not, this was one that was on my want list. Now, I couldn't recall what the gameplay looked like or exactly how much I wanted the game, but I knew it was on my want list, which I unfortunately left at home. And it is El Viento, which is a side-scrolling action game, which highly reminds me of the Valis series. And I actually had the guy that worked in the store bring up YouTube and play some gameplay for me because I was like, I can't remember exactly what the gameplay looks like, but I remember I wanted the game. And when I watched it, yeah, I wanted the game, so picked up a complete Mega Drive version of El Viento. The next stop of our trip was my personal favorite. I absolutely love the layout of this place and the selection of games, and that's Al's Music and Games. The first thing you notice when you walk in this place is it seems like it stretches on forever. There's rows and rows of games and music. They have vinyls, CDs, everything, but there is an entire row of all retro and some modern games that seems to stretch down forever. They have cases of games with some of the more rare stuff, just games all over the place, and it was a really cool vibe because it's not one of those stores where everything is like super organized. It sort of has that messy but neat style. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it was my kind of game store. The first thing I was drawn to was the bargain bin, in which I found a copy of an original Xbox game called Quantum Redshift, and it was only $1. Now, it does have a part of the plastic, I don't know if you guys can see that right here, cut out, and Jason Heine told me this was because it originally was owned by Xbox or Microsoft employee, because when they would get sent games like this, they would have a big giant sticker there that indicated so, and this one was cut out. And it was funny because later on we found a game that had that exact sticker on there, so very interesting to know, but I couldn't pass this up for $1. I mean, even on eBay you can't get it for $1 because the shipping charges, they're going to be $4 alone. And this is sort of like a cool futuristic racing game that I've been meaning to pick up. Next, I was drawn to this glass case of games. I saw a stack of games in there and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for. It was a stack of PC Engine and Super CD games, and they had them locked up so you couldn't really see what they were because the spine cards are in Japanese, so I had to ask the guy, could you unlock that for me? I want to check out the games. And inside, I found a couple of games that I've been after. First of which is Genji Tsushin Aje Dama. And this is a really cool hybrid of like a forced side-scrolling platformer and a shoot-'em-up at the same time. So it's a really interesting game that I've been wanting to add to my collection for some time, and it looks like a lot of fun. And I noticed these 2 games. Now, I couldn't quite recall what the gameplay looked like in these, but I remember the box art on these, and once you see the cover art on these games, you'll agree that it's kind of unique, and you probably won't forget them once you see them. But that is Honey on the Road, which is sort of like this weird puzzle platformer game. It's really hard to describe, but watching the gameplay here, you can definitely see that it looks like a lot of fun. and this was $15, which is slightly cheaper than what this normally goes for. And then this other one is Honey in the Sky, which is a shooter, and I had the person there also bring up gameplay on this because this one was $30. So that $30 mark, once a game goes above $20, I'm a little bit more hesitant to buy something if I'm not quite familiar with what I'm buying. But I had him bring up some gameplay and it looked interesting. I remember watching video on this and I remember putting this on my want list, so picked it up for $30. It was a little bit above what I wanted to pay, but I couldn't let them go because they were both there together. And what's really interesting about these games is the price sticker on here is from 2007, March 2nd, 2007. So these games, along with the other PC Engine games there, had been sitting in that case for 5 years, and I feel like I just came along and rescued them because, well, for the most part, it was pretty reasonably priced, especially for the Genji game here. So really happy to have those. And then in one of their other glass display cabinets, they had a copy of Pac-Man Collection on the Game Boy Advance, which I've been wanting because this is actually the only way that I know of that you can get a copy of Pac-Man Arrangement, which is, once again, from what I know, exclusive to Pac-Man Collection on the Game Boy Advance, and it looks like a lot of fun. It doesn't have the manual, but I think this was only $6. Now, before you think I'm crazy for picking this up, just hear me out. This game is actually supposed to be pretty good as an adventure game. Yes, the content of this game and the license that it's tied to is for kids. However, from what I've read on this game, it's actually kind of worth playing for fans of adventure games, and it's supposedly a really good Game Boy Color game. And that is Hamtaro Ham Hams Unite. Yeah, it's only $6, and you know, hey, if this game's been recommended by collectors and gamers and fans of the Game Boy Color, I'm willing to take a chance on it. And you know, just as an example, look at the Mickey Mouse games. I mean, they're really well-regarded games from Disney. This is, once again, another kids series, but figured it was worth a try. And lastly, from Al's, I picked up a complete Mega Drive version of Granada. This is another shooter, and I do actually own this already for the Genesis, but it's cart only, and for $8, I couldn't pass up a complete copy of this. There's no way I'd be able to get this online for that price, so that was a really good deal. And our next stop was Pink Gorilla in the U District. Yes, another Pink Gorilla store. I believe they actually have 3 locations around the Seattle, Washington area. And this time, once again, they were a little short on stock, as Jason had warned me. But that didn't stop me from finding a game that caught my eye, and one that I remember watching gameplay of and thinking it looked pretty good. And that is another shooter for the PC Engine, and that is Barumba. And definitely happy to pick this up. I believe this was only, yeah, it was $15, which was definitely a reasonable price for that game. Alright, so for those of you that watched my game hunting videos from last year, you'll know that one of the stores I went to was Game Gurus, which was my favorite stop from last year. This year, Metal Jesus took me to the second location of Game Gurus, which was not open last year when we went, and I got some pretty good finds in this store. It was a really neat and organized store. They had a good selection of all different kinds of systems. You know, they had the carts only, neatly organized in these pull-out bins that you could check through, which I was definitely doing, and that's where I found some of my best finds. First of which, I saw this and I was like, oh yes, and then I saw the price and I was even more excited. That is Whip Rush. It's a complete copy. This is another shooter on the Sega Genesis, and this only cost me $10. And you know, the game goes for about $25 on eBay, but the fact that I'm getting it for half the price, finding it in person, you know, it was really exciting to me. So I'm definitely happy to add Whip Rush to my collection. And another game, I was on a streak. I saw this and I was like, oh my god, another game I've been wanting. And once again, the price kind of blew me away. It was a really good price. For only $8, I got a boxed copy of Steel Empire, another side-scrolling shooter for the Sega Genesis. And what's unique about this one is that it's sort of like a steampunk style shooter. So definitely happy to have that in my collection, and especially for such a good price. I went over to their PlayStation 1 games, and I was able to find 2 games that I've been after for quite a bit. First of which is MotoTune Grand Prix for only $10. This game is quite uncommon, and usually on eBay it tends to go for about $20 to $30. So finding it for $10 was definitely a really good find. And a really interesting bit of info about this game, this was actually before the creator of Gran Turismo made the Gran Turismo series. He created MotoTune Grand Prix. So quite the contrast, and I actually played this with Jason, both Jasons and Paul, when we were back at Metal Jesus' place, and it actually controls and plays really well. It's a really fun game, and we all really enjoyed it. And lastly, I was so thrilled to find this there, especially for $8. I've been after this for quite a bit, and that is Vanarch for the PlayStation 1. Now this game here, what makes it so unique is that it plays like a Star Fox clone for the PlayStation 1. Right down to the music, to the camera, to the enemies, like just the overall feel and look and presentation of this game, aside from the on-foot like missions where you're in the game hub world until you get into the flying missions. But the game itself very closely resembles Star Fox, and we played a little bit of the training mode in this back at Metal Jesus' place, and it did not disappoint. Another really good game. Our next stop was Game Gurus, the same place that I visited from last year, so if you guys want a closer look at that, I will post a link below to my visit there last year where I picked up a lot of stuff. This year they were a little bit light on stuff, at least that I was looking for, so I actually didn't end up picking up much, except I did get a complete copy of Target Earth for the Sega Genesis, which I think I mistakenly left with Jason Heine. So I'm going to have to get that back from him. Either that or I've misplaced it somewhere here, but I got that game for $6. That's another shooter on the Sega Genesis. And that's all I picked up from there, but it's still cool to check out the store because that was my favorite one from last year, and still really like the place. Alright, and the last stop of the day was Amazing Heroes and Toys. Now, for those of you, once again, that have watched my game hunting videos from last year, I did a video of this place, and I absolutely bought a lot of stuff there. I really enjoyed it. They have since changed locations and basically doubled the size of their store. I didn't get any footage personally this year from my camera. However, if you want to see what the inside of the store looks like, I will provide a link below to Metal Jesus' video where he highlights Amazing Heroes as well as the other game stores that we went to around that area. And from there I got some really good deals actually. The first game that caught my attention was yet again another shooter that I've been wanting for my collection because I do plan on going for a complete Sega Genesis shooter collection, and that is Task Force Harrier EX. It's complete and it was only $6. Now this game normally on eBay goes for about $25 to $30 for a complete copy, so I was really happy to find it for that price. The next game that I saw that interested me was N2O Nitrous Oxide. Now, watching this game, you will immediately notice that this is one of those crazy, over-the-top, like, weird, colorful games. It kind of reminded me of, like, Tempest 3000, but taken to the next level. So, this game was only $4, really happy to have that. And my last pickup and find of the trip, and it was a really good way to end it, is a game that I've been after, and I didn't expect to get this on my trip for such a good price. And that is a complete copy of Sunset Riders for the Super Nintendo, in pretty good condition, except for some creasing there, which I'm sure you can see by the glare. But aside from that, the box is in pretty good condition. It also includes the manual and the inner tray, and for $55, I mean, the cart only on eBay goes for between $40 to $50, so to find a complete copy for $55, I was pretty happy. Asking prices for complete copies on eBay go for $100 and up normally, so this was a really great way to end the trip and a game that is highly recommended by many people. There are differences between the Genesis and the Super Nintendo version, but I hear the Super Nintendo version is the best. It's also in the arcades, but I've never played any three of the versions, so I'm really happy to finally have Sunset Riders on the Super Nintendo. And as many of you probably know, Super Nintendo games complete in the box are going up and up in value, so to get this for such a decent price, I was definitely happy. So there you go guys, that is my video for my trip around the Washington area, or at least around the Seattle area. Most of these stores were in other cities, but around the Seattle area. And once again, thanks to Metal Jesus, I had a lot of fun going around to the game stores this year, and hopefully next year I'll have another game hunting video for you guys. Thanks for watching.